Good morning. So, today we are going to be looking at creating our first initiative system. And for those who are wondering what's going on, I had done this before and I am just doing um, a rebuild of this. Let me just move this out of that screen. Good. Okay, so I am just rebuilding this system. The two original videos have just been taken off the playlist and they have been set to unlisted. They're still there, um, but they're going to be replaced with this new system. So let's look at what we're going to be doing. So first things first, I have set up in my battle scene a set of points, which is where we are going to have our fighters. I have a player position, which has so each of these is a container, and there's a point in each container. So here is the player's position, and for enemy position 1, enemy position 2, what this stands for is the amount of enemies in the battle. So I'm putting up to about 4, well, not up to, I'm putting up to 4 maximum of characters that can be in the fight. So for instance, enemy position 4 are these 4 positions: there, 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 and there. Enemy 3 will be there, there, and there. So these are just places for me to be able to spawn enemies when I create them. So I've just got them wrapped up in this little package here, and let us begin now working out how to actually spawn them and set up initiatives for them. I'm going to first just create a BM for my battle manager. The battle manager. And then in my scripts, my battle scripts, I'm going to create 2 scripts in here. One is going to be the battle manager, and the other one is something which can help me track these combatants in the game. Okay. Yep, let's go. There you go. Okay, so let's look at the next thing I want to do is let's find my sprites. Here we go. And let's find one of them. Doesn't matter to me for now. Which one am I looking for? That one. So that's 7. And just drag her in there. And this is going to be the prefab for the fighter that we're going to be creating. She's going to get more complex further we go in, but we're just going to make something very simple. So she's going to have on her a script, battle scripts. So let's call this our why would you pop open? I haven't named it yet. Where did Unity go? Okay. I hate when this happens. delete, delete. Really? Stop doing this. It doesn't do it all the time, that popping up of Visual Studio. If someone could tell me why it's doing that and how to get it stop doing that. If I create a script in here, I don't necessarily need to open Visual Studio immediately. Okay, so creating a script, and this is going to be our I guess it's initiative for the combat. So combat initiative, and each person is an item, so let's call that combat initiative item. See, I created it, automatically opens this. I don't need it open. Right now I do need it open, but actually no, because I want to first go back to here where this is still going on. All right, so on her, I'm going to go and drop the script, combat initiative item. And for now, that's all I care about for this prefab. I've created a folder here for my battle prefabs, which I'm just going to drag her down into there, and I can delete her now. The battle manager is going to get the battle manager script. So, battle manager. All right, and then let's open that. All right, let's just clear some stuff out to work. Oh, and from the last videos to this video, some things will look a little different. I was doing a tutorial, or I was following someone's tutorial, and he recommended these rainbow braces. It's an extension that you can download. Manage extensions. And this one is... where did it go? I can't remember what it was called though. Wait, hold on. That was it. Biasfora. Biasfora, I guess, is its name. And then there's an option to turn on those rainbow braces in its settings. Okay, so Battle Manager. What do we need from this? Well, we are going to need... so I'm just going to do some notes first. So I need the prefab to be linked in. At those positions, I need the positions. So let's call them battle positions linked to code somehow. We are going to, I need the list of all the people in the battle. So list everyone in the battle. I need to for each of those people, I need to find out the order that they fight in. So this is the initiative part. So set initiative of everyone in battle. And then once we've got all that, then we could launch the first fighter. All right. So let's look at these things here. So the prefab, that's gonna be a simple public. What do I want? I'm gonna grab it by its combat initiative, and let's call that fighter prefab. Okay. Combat positions linked to code. So let us figure out let's do a void and set up position list. So I'm going to need a list to put this in. And rather than using a list, because I've got them where there are numbers attached to each of them. So I've got enemy position 1, position 2, 3, 4. I want to be able to call on each of those by a number counted by the amount of people in the battle. So if there's, depending on how many enemies there are, there's going to be enemies that are 1 enemy, 2 enemies, 3 enemies, or 4 enemies. I want to count those things. So the best way to do that is to have some sort of a key for it. So that means a dictionary. And my dictionary is going to be made up of the int, which will be the amount of people in the battle, and the transform, which is the position of those dots in my scene. And I'm going to call this enemy positions equals new dictionary, blah, blah, blah. There we go. All right, so now we could add things into this part. First thing I want to do is I want to put the player into it, and he's going to put in as 0. 0 will be no enemies, just the player. So this will be any positions dot add, and it'll be a 0, and game object dot find player position dot, because we're putting a transform in here, so player position dot transform, and that is good. So I'm going to find that holder player position, and then I've got enemy position 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can do that with either a, well, it's not a for each, so I'm going to use a for loop. I don't use for loops often, but there are 4 of them. We're going to be starting at 1. 0 is already taken, so we're going to start at 1, and we're going 1 to 4. So I is less than 5, 4 is less than 5. Let's build the name I'm looking for. So this is a string. Let's call it pause name, position name is going to be equal to, and this is enemy position plus I, and then let's look for it. So yep, thank you for supplying the code. There we go. So we're going to put in I as the key. So we've got a 0, then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to find that part and add in the transform. Okay. So we have set up our position. This is going to be called in a start method. Let's just put the start method at the end. Start. Thank you. So I'm going to call that in my start method. The other thing I should have done from the very beginning is, because we need to reference the battle manager, so let's do a public static battle manager instance, and this is going to be on awake. There we go. All right. That stuff I could just ignore for now. Okay, so we've set up our position list. Now we need to list every single person that's in the battle. And for that, I could just use a simple list. Public list combat. Here we go. And these are my fighters. Okay. So let's now set up the fighters. So void and set up fighters. Okay. That could also be called right after that. Once I set up my positions, I can set up my fighters. And to do that, let us say that we want to I'm going to okay, right, for this one I'm going to create a void create fighter, because this is something I'm going to use both for the fighter and for the enemies, so rather than doing something multiple times, just do it once. And so to create a fighter, I'm going to need a couple of things. I'm going to need the name of the fighter so that we can rename it. So this is a string. Next thing is I need the fighter type. That's right. I need to set up some enums. Fighter type. This is going to be a player or an enemy. Oops. On brackets. Player enemy. And public enum. The next thing I need to do is what kind of combat is this? So it's going to be a initiative type. What type of initiative are we dealing with? It's either a selection phase or it is a action phase. I think those are the only two phases I can think of for now in initiative types. It's either your turn to select what you want to do, or it's your turn to do an action. Sometimes actions are immediate, sometimes actions take time, and therefore, if an action takes time, it needs its own slot in the initiative list. So when your initiative comes up, is that when you're taking the action, or is that when you're just selecting what action you're doing? Okay, so on our creating of the fighter, we've got the fighter's name. I need to know what the fighter's type is. Let's separate this down onto separate lines. Fighter name, fighter type. I need to know I need to get their modifiers. This is something I should... Okay, let's set this up first. I can get rid of these. And... So let me just look at my notes as to what I need to be doing. Okay. So I'm going to need some info for this combatant. For instance, I need to know where he is in the initiative list right now. So let's just do some header, and this is going to be information about whatever the fighter is. Fighter info. Doesn't matter if the fighter is a player or an enemy. I'm going to need some info on it. The first thing is public int current initiative, and that's going to be 0. So we start at 0, and I mean, I don't have to do that if it's an int and it's empty. It's going to be a 0 anyhow. But that's going to get changed every time that the combatant steps up in that initiative list. They get a new initiative. They get a new current initiative. Public. This is the action. This is the initiative type. Actually, in my notes, I have these over here. And I did not call that initiative type, I called it action type. So, what type of action is being carried out? Selection is normally the default, so public. What type of fighter are we? And I'm going to need to know okay, so this player is going to have a main initiative modifier and a current one, just in case halfway through the battle he's slowed down or something. So I need the main one to be able to get back to it. And I need a current initiative modifier to know that's the one that I'm going to be using when calculating initiatives. Okay, so I've got these things. Now I'm going to set up the player. So public void setup, and the setup's going to take the name. No, the name's going to be set over in the other place. Sorry, not a name. I need to pass in the fighter type though. I need to pass in the... I'm going to be grabbing their main initiatives. So... and filling in both the main initiative and the current initiative. Action type, like I said, that is going to be selection, but it's also going to be chosen when we actually calculate your initiative. So I don't need to do that in the setup. So for now, that's about it for that. So see if you're gonna give me, yep, thank you. And the next one, okay, not current, but thank you. And then the current one is equal to the main one. Okay, so if this is a fighter, this is a fighter, that's the player, this is good. If I'm using an enemy, so the enemy gets everything from the enemy SO. This is all we've created for the enemy scriptable object so far, which is just your initiative modifier, and that is passed into here, into our main initiative modifier and the current. But I'm going to want to set up everything that an enemy scriptable object has. This guy has to have as well. I can go and I can embed this into there. I could put in a variable and say public enemy SO enemy, and I could drag in the setup, I could drag that enemy into here. This is good, however there are some problems with doing this method. I mean, I could still do that, But for instance, if I did public int health, and I give my enemy some sort of hit points, so should I call it HP health? No, just health. I give it some sort of health. Now this enemy, let's say it was the fox, and picture having a scriptable object as a card with all the info on it. And the problem with, if I had, like, let's say it's a magic card, Magic the Gathering, and I've got a card and he's got hit points on it, and every time he's hit, I go and I deface the card by marking on the card. That card is permanently marked. So if I go and change this health on the scriptable object, then the next time I get a fox, it's going to pull it up with that augmented health. So I don't want to be changing anything on this scriptable object. That's one of the downfalls with, I mean, I love the way scriptable objects work, but that's a downfall on this. So what I'm going to do is, I mean, I could write a script in here to create some sort of temporary health and then reset that every time I use, no, I'm not going to do that. Alright, so in here, I am going to create a section for an enemy. I don't need to create a section for the player. The player already pulls all of its info from the player manager, and that's permanent information changing. So this is a header for enemy info. And let's see, the enemy info, all I really want right now is public int health. And I need a way to, I need a way to pass that in, and the setup is the way to pass that in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say public void setup, and this is just like the one above, except it's going to take in these things. And then it's going to add something else. So I've got those. So it's giving me an error because it says, hey, that's exactly the same as that. But I'm also going to take in the enemy SO enemy. Just make sure I don't have that there anymore. I don't. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is, I don't want to repeat all of this. I'm just going to call that. Okay, and now the health is equal to the enemy SO. I'll just call it enemy underscore enemy. Be consistent. So enemy dot health. Save. Alright. There's going to be more things I'm going to pass in. Health is not the first thing. There's going to be many more things that's going to come. But this gets me to have a basic enemy that I could attack and ruin his health. Alright. With that being set up, I can now go and where were we? Okay, so we're back to there. So let's look at my notes. And my notes are, we've done the fighter type. Now we need the initiative mod. And this is going to be that main mod and current mod. I'm going to need to know, when I create a fighter, how many fighters are in the battle. And because that's going to count towards where I'm actually putting the enemy. Sorry, where I'm placing them in the scene. So this is the count. And so that's going to count from how many enemies there are. And that is done with these things here. So if there's 3 enemies, it's going to go for that 3. But then if it's got the 3 enemies, it wants to know which enemy, which position do I put it in. So there's the enemy count. Maybe I could just call that enemy count, and then enemy position. Okay, with that, creating a fighter will do this. So I am going to grab the transform. And I'm finding that position, which is going to be the from the enemy positions. We've got that first we've got that first, what do you call it, the key. So we're going to grab that, and that's our number. So it's the enemy positions, and we are going to be using enemy count for that. And then we want to get a child of it. So get child, and we want the enemy position. All right, that's going to get the transform of that child. So once we have the transform of that child, we can get a position from a transform. Let us do our that, and this will be our fighter. All right, and he's going to be equal to and instantiate, and this will be the fighter prefab. Nope, wrong brackets. Instantiate. Thank you. Fighter prefab, and we're gonna need to put him at a position. So this is our POS that we just calculated, and position. So that's a transform position, and we need, unfortunately, once we do that, we're going to need a rotation, which is our big enemy, the Quaternion, but we just do identify. Okay, so that's the fighter that we've just instantiated. Now that we have the fighter, I can go and I can put the fighter dot. I'm going to set up the fighter now. Setup. And the setup is going to take a few things. It's going to take our fighter type. And the next thing it needs is the initiative. So that is the initiative mod that we're passing in. Okay. Once we've done that, we have a fighter. We can now add our fighter. So this is our fighters dot add fighter. So we're adding our fighter to the list of people who are in the battle. Once we've done that, once we created a fighter, we can figure out where he is in our initiative. So that will be this set initiatives of everyone in the battle. Let's just put this in here for now. This is a void, and let's call this set next initiative. And let's call on that. So I need to pass in the fighter. So this is going to take a... do that. Underscore. And pass in the fighter. Okay. And if we're setting an initiative, we should set what type it is. So this is an action type. And it is going to be, for the first thing, they have to select. There's no actions, they're just selecting. So this would be action type dot selection. Okay. Next thing, let's give that fighter dot game object dot name equals fighter name. So this is everything about creating a fighter. So we are going to be finding its position from that list that we have. 0 is going to be, this is going to work both for the player and for the enemies, because if we pass in 0, that's going to find the position for the player. So enemy positions, where was it? 0 found the player position. And then we want to find, and then the enemy position, we're obviously going to pass in a 0 so that the child index number 0 will be found, and that's going to be our player's position. If it's an enemy, and let's say there's 4 enemies, so the enemy count 4 comes in, and in enemy positions, the I in enemy positions is going to be 4. So we are going to find the child who is in that position, in that part of the dictionary. We're going to get the child of which enemy it is. So as we do a for each, we're going to find the enemies and their position. Then we instantiate it into the scene. Then we set it up. And then we are going to add fighters. And so we add it to the fighters list. Then we find out, once we've created, find out where does he actually belong. All right, let us set up the fighters then. And so the player is the first one that we are going to be setting up. And that is, we're going to be using our create fight, our thing that we just created. Create fighter. What are we passing in? The name is going to be player. And the next thing we need is its fighter type. So fighter type dot player. Next thing we need is the initiative modifier. We can get that off of our player manager. So pm dot instance dot initiative mod, and the next thing is the enemy count. Well, we're going for 0 and 0, and that's the player setup. Oops. Room here. Okay. Next thing is, let's go and find our enemies, and we can do a for each, and we're going to be getting this from our player manager instance, and these are the enemies that were put into the player manager battle variables, and we made a list of the enemies. So enemies to battle. Let's grab that, and so instance enemies to battle, and this is going to be enemy SO and enemy. Okay, I'm gonna need this to also include the enemy SO, just in case. So can I do a null? I can do a null. Enemy SO. Enemy. So that's not gonna be right unless I do this. No. Okay. So if we're doing this, I can if enemy is not equal to null, then I'll take that, put that up here, copy it, but this is going to pass in enemy, else that one. Okay, so we just checked to see if I'm passing in an enemy, then we're going to be doing this, which is the setup that includes the enemy. If there is an enemy, if there isn't an enemy, so if it is null, then we just do the normal setup. Save. Okay, that way I can take this, copy it, and paste it. All right. I need a number. I could have done this as a 4, but I'm just going to do int I equals 0. And that means that I'm going to need at the end of this I++. And this is going to be on different lines. Let's put this all down different lines. There we go. And this is going to be the enemy. All right. The I is going to be for the count, not the count, for the position. So for each enemy, enemy 1, enemy 2, and an enemy 3, that's their positions. Position 1, position 2, position 3. Player, this is going to be enemy. Actually, the name, let's do this as a string. I can do it right here. So, enemy and plus, I don't want to be I, or just I want to be I plus 1. Because I is 0, so I don't want enemy 0. I want enemy 1, enemy 2, and enemy 3. The fighter type, that, and the count. So this is going to be the pm.instance.enemies to battle dot count. Alright. And that's it. So our create fighter, we used it twice, and these are the things we're passing in. Is the name of it, what type of fighter is he, what's its initiative modifier. Oh right, initiative modifier does not come from the player manager on the enemy. This comes from the enemy dot mod, initiative mod. Oops, comma. There we go. And the count and everything. Okay, so we've set up our fighters. There's where we're creating our fighters. Now we got to set the next initiative. For this, we also need a list of, that's the initiative list, the who's fighting at what time. We just did who's fighting. So we created a list of who's fighting. Now we need to create a list of who's fighting at what time. And to do that, we're going to need another list here. And this is going to be, so let's say public list. And same type of list, it's going to be of combat initiative items. And let's call these the initiatives. Is equal to new listing. Okay. Okay, so what does it do when we set the next initiative? Let's do some notes here. First thing I want to do is I want to be able to roll for initiative. So in this case, I'm going to say, because in Dungeons & Dragons you roll a d20, so I'm going to call it rolling for initiative. This is a calculation of initiative. I like the word roll. Roll for initiative. The next thing it's going to do is I need to put people into the list. And it's going to calculate who's got the lowest initiative. The lowest initiative has to be put in a certain place in the list. But if the list is empty, we're just putting someone at position 0, at the first position. So let's do if no one is in the list, just enter them. Just add them. If people are in the list, then go through the list and find where to put this fighter. Okay. And then if the fighter doesn't go in front of anyone, then add to end of list. All right. So that should do it of what we need. So rolling for initiative. Now the initiative thing is going to be a way more complex calculation, because there might be weapons, there might be rings, there might be spells, there might be potions, anything that might affect the initiative roll. So we should just put that as its own. So void roll initiative, and that initiative is going to need to know who is the initiative person that we're doing, so that we could check them and find anything about them. So let's just make this a very simple one for now. We need to roll a random number between 1 and 20. So int random number rolled, excuse me, is equal to random.range, and it's between, so in Dungeons & Dragons we roll a d20, so this between 1 and 20, but hold on, is initiative 1d20 or is it 1d10? Let's just pull that over here and look at it off screen. So D initiative roll. I could swear it's a 1d20, but how to calculate what is rolled for initiative? So I might be wrong. It might be a d10. So intended and I don't want this open too long because it slowed my computer down. And why is this not an easy answer? Come on. Rolling initiative is done by rolling 1d20. There we go. See? I knew it. Alright, now, problem with this is we are doing ints. So if I did this, and let's just look at range and see what it says. So if we're doing an int, it's minimum inclusive and maximum exclusive, which means I can never roll a 20 because it's going to exclude the maximum. So if I roll a 1 to 21, that 21 is excluded, but 20 is included. So that's just something that you have to worry about when using your random range, whether using float or whether you're using ints. Okay, so we've got our random rolled, and then we are. Let me get rid of the browser because that slows everything down. Shoot, go away. Okay. And then let's just do some very simple calculations. But like I said, this is going to get more complex. So we have our int, and we're going to look at our modified roll. And that's going to be equal to what we rolled randomly. Random rolled. Plus, each person has their own initiative modifier, and that's stored on the fighter, and the fighter has a current initiative modifier. Then once we do that, I could return the modified roll, and we have our initiative rolled. However, this current modifier, we can do a lot more calculations, like I said, for potions and for armor, for anything like that. Alright. Save. Not done a save in a little bit. Good to do a save. So here's our rolling of initiatives. Let's just store that in an int. So int. And this is the initiative. Say initiative number. It's equal to roll initiative. I need to pass in the fighter into that. Good. Why? What's going on? Oh. We're returning an int. There we go. Sorry. So yeah, the rolled initiative, we returned an int. So that can't be void. Next is, let's just add them if everything is okay. So if there's nobody in the initiatives list, we're just going to add the first one. That would be an if. What do we call it? Initiatives? We call it initiatives. So if initiatives.count, that's what we're looking for. .count is going to be equal to 0. Then what are we going to do? We are going to add. So let's do that. And initiatives dot add, and we are adding the fighter. Okay, once we've added that fighter, he now has an initiative, and we have to, in here, set his current initiative to something. So let us add something else onto here. This will be to set that initiative. So let's say public void set initiative. And in order to do that, we're going to have to pass in int, and it's going to be the current initiative. And we also want to know the initiative that we're creating, what kind of action is it? Is it an initiative for selection, or is it an initiative for action? And so this is going to be our action type. And action type. Okay. Give me some suggestions. Nope. Okay, so let me start typing. Current initiative. Equal to. That actually wasted more time than anything. So action type equals action type. At least that one went fast. Oops. Save. Okay, so here we set our initiative and what type of action we're going to be looking at, or what kind of mode he's in when his initiative comes up. Where were we? We were here, and so that fighter dot, we're going to set the initiative, and the initiative is that initiative number. All right, and the action type is, oh, I'm passing in the action type. All right. So let me see my notes if that is good. Should be good. Yep. All right. Let us. There's something that's bugging me. When we are getting our initiative, and when we set that initiative, let's say I'm at position 5 in the list, and then I do my action, and then I go to do another initiative. It should be 5 plus whatever is rolled. So this should be plus equals that. Save. Yep, okay, I'm gonna try that and see if that works. I think that's what I need. Okay, so if I do all of that, I don't need to do anything else, so let me just return. However, okay, I'm gonna need it. Int I equals 0, and because I'm doing a for each loop, and I want to find everybody in this list. Okay, no, I can't do that over here, because I need to do that in here. I need to do that when I calculate my roll. Or maybe I do it up here. Yeah, let me do it here. So this will be our fighter dot current initiative plus the rolled initiative. Current initiative is 0. Everyone starts at 0, and then they add that. But it needs to keep on building and building. Okay. So in the initiatives, I'm going to find these guys. Do that. And that. Let me not use fighter. Or let me just do fighter this way. Right, that'll work. Okay, these are everyone who's in the list already. And I now need to find out if my initiative roll is less than everyone in the list. So in order to do that, I need to insert... Well, first I need to check if my initiative number is less than the fighter in the list dot current initiative. So if I'm less than his initiative, then I go before him in the list. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to say that initiatives dot insert, and I'm inserting them at position I, and I'm inserting the not the fighter, not this guy, I'm inserting this guy, the fighter. So I comma fighter. That should do it. And oh, before I do anything else, I plus plus. Alright, so I've inserted them, and I am going to, same thing here, set the initiative. I think that should be it. And if I have done that, then I could return. I can just get out of the for each loop, or sorry, get out of everything, the set initiative. And is that in the right place? It is. Okay. At the end of the for each loop, so that's this part here. If people are in the list, then go through the list. That would have been this part here. If no one's in the list, let me just take that, put that note there. If the fighter doesn't go in front of anyone, so we go right through the entire thing and find that I'm not less than anyone, then I just add me to the end of the list. And that would be, let me just grab these guys here, put it after this, and it's not an insert, it's an add. I do not need the I, and I do the setup, and I'm done. So that sets up the initiatives. I think I'm pretty much finished with everything I need to do. So with the initiatives, when it does come to someone's turn, let's put this as public so I can call it from somewhere, because I will be calling it from the combat initiative item. So public void get. So what this was set initiative. So let's call it get next initiative. Oops. Get next initiatives, and so this is going to look for the first item in the list. So get the person who is the first item in the list. It's going to then remove that person once we've got it. We're going to store that info somewhere and remove the first person in the list because they're doing their action. I don't need them in that list anymore. If I did, what was it? It's a hash setter. There's a type of a type of list, a collection, where it's kind of a first in, first out. I can't remember what it was, but you kind of add things to the end of the list, and when you remove them, it's removed from the beginning of the list. Don't remember what it's called. Someone's going to say it in the comment. Remove the first person from the list. What else do we need? We need to find out. So we're getting this initiative, and we need to know, what type of action is it? What type of action is it? That's action is it. If it's a selection, then show the selection UI. If it is an action, what's the word I'm looking for? Activating. Then proceed with action. In some of these cases, those set initiatives might actually just, depending on the action, they'll just be in this part. When we do the selection UI, that's what's going to decide, do I carry out the action immediately, or do I set another initiative? So this should be public, because whatever does the UI for this, the UI to do the selection needs to, if the action takes a certain amount of time and is not immediate, then it needs to set another initiative point, and therefore the action type will be set to action. Okay, save. I'm not going as far as this. I'm just setting this up, because here we say launch the first player. That kind of goes in here. So we set up excuse me. Sorry about that. Sneezing fit. Okay, launch the first fighter is going to be this guy here. Alright. We set up our fighters, and the fighters, as they are setting up, they add themselves to the initiative list. However, I do want not, because it's going to set up the player, and let's say there's 3 enemies. It's going to set up 4 initiatives, and I want to see a whole bunch of them being calculated. So in order to do that, I have to do this setup for each person that's in the fighters list. So let's say I want to do it a couple of times. Let's say I want 4 I is 0 2, let's say 0 1 2, 3 times. So I can do 3. So for that, I'm going to go through the entire list of all the fighters. So this is fighters, and this will be combat initiatives and underscore fighter. Okay, so for each fighter, we are going to be setting the next initiative. Which I have to pass in the fighter. And I have to pass in the action type. So action type dot selection. Okay. This is just going to be okay, this is a temporary thing because when we let's say I've got 3 selection points, but if one of the selection points I'm doing an action that takes five initiative positions to execute, then all of his other positions have to be shifted 5 places. So I'd need to remove him from the list and then recalculate some new initiatives. Okay, it's gonna start getting complex when I get into that. For now, I just want to see if this works. So let's save that. And that was our for each. Not gonna do it in this one, but okay, first things first, let's just take our start. I don't like to start at the end. Put the start at the start. And put him there. Put her there. Okay. And also let us add in so I'm just going to put this in for now, but I'm not going to do anything on it now. I just want to put that in the start, just so everything looks complete. There, display initiative position. So once we've got all of our positions set up, I should do this before I get next initiative. So this is actually starting it. That's launching the first player is to get the next initiative. Display the initiative positions is going to be the icons on the screen showing who acts at what point. Save. Alright. This should work. So fingers crossed, and let's go and fill in the prefab. I don't think there's anything else I need to fill in except for the prefab there. There's the prefab. So the first thing I should look at is a list of all the fighters. So on my player manager, I already have a deer and a fox. So I should be pulling at this one, enemy position 2. So on the battle manager, I should see 3 people in this list. And then 3 times 4 is 12 people in this list, I think. 12. 3 and 12. Right. Because we did the first setting of initiatives and then we did a loop. So I got player, enemy 2, enemy 1, player. Okay, so that is not good. If I look at the player, all the way down to 31, which on the battle manager, okay, I don't like this. Let's just do it once and done. because it's kind of be done in rounds. Okay, so let's play this again. See what we get. Should be 3 and 3. Okay, so my player rolled a 10. The enemy rolled a 19. And that is a 26. Okay, something's wrong here because that current initiative mod should have been 9. Which means something is wrong here. If that's 26, if I rolled a 20, then my current initiative modifier plus the 20 would have just given me 20. Also, let's give those SO, let's give them resources, dialogues, enemies. The deer. Let's give him 20 health. Fox is smaller than him, he gets 15, and a rabbit gets 5. Alright. Set up positions. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. We were looking at when I set up a fighter. It was this. Main initiative. And current initiative. Oh, that's what went wrong. And that's probably what went wrong when I did the multiple stuff in the start. Let's try that again. No, it's for loop going 3 times, and there's a for each in it. And the for each is going, to pull from the fighters. And we are going to be set next initiative, which is going to take in the fighter and an action type of selection. Okay, let's see if that's more evenly spaced out. I'd still have a problem with it. Right. So the player, he's saying 56. All right. Now, this is more evenly spaced out. I've got a player, I've got enemy, enemy 2, player, enemy 2, enemy 1, enemy 2, player, enemy 1. Enemy 1 has not been doing very well in his roles. Player, enemy 1, enemy 1. Now, this is not really good because if I look at my player, it's saying my current initiative is 56. I highly doubt that's what it was when I was here in the first position. And if I try to check that to add something to this position, it's going to have the wrong current initiative number. So I'm just going to forget this system here. Yeah, I'm going to forget all about that. And I'll just take my initiatives as they come. I roll initiative. When it's your turn, you take your turn, you do your selection, and then you find out your next place in the list. And then the next guy does his turn, finds out his next place in the list. I might take an action which might happen before someone's next turn, or it might happen after the next turn. Whenever that action executes, then from that point we find another initiative to find out, well, when am I allowed to act? As soon as my action happens, I have to wait until it's my turn again. So just hit play and I should just have 3 and 3. Yeah, and there's my player. He rolled a 12, he rolled a 17, and he rolled a 27. And I have my current initiative modifier working. So that means if it's 27, 9, that means he rolled a... Math is failing me right now. An 18. He rolled a... That's an 8, and I got 17. A 9. I rolled really low. I've got a initiative modifier of 4, which means I rolled a 8. Stupid math. Okay, so we have an initiative system that works now. And the next thing I'm going to be looking at is going to be let me just check how the stream has been going and how far in we are. An hour and something. That took a little bit too long. Right, the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to create some UI for our fight, where we will have, first things first, this last part that I just stuck in here, and this will display the initiative positions on the screen, and that's just going to be using probably a vertical or a horizontal display, and it's going to pull probably the first 6, because at any one point we can have somebody with, I don't know, 5 or 6. You can have people waiting to do their turn and people waiting for an action to happen. So 2 actions waiting to happen means you don't ever see 3, I guess. Anyhow, it's going to display whose turn it is at what point. And then we're going to do the selection process of what action you want to take. We're going to do a little AI for the enemy so that they can take their actions. I'm not sure how complex we'll get with the enemy yet. It could be totally at random, or they could have certain criteria, like for instance, if they have healing spells, and they're under a certain amount of damage, then they try to heal themselves. Um, that's if they can cast healing spells. So there's going to be some thought process going into how the AI works. I'm just going to do it purely random at the beginning. We can start to make build it out more and more as we go. Okay. So that is it for today. We have our initiative system working, and it keeps everything onto an object, and that object is stored in a list that we can refer to. I will see you in the next tutorial. Thank you and goodbye.